Hey there YouTube, Wheeler here. Man, it is really weird actually introducing a vlog for the first time in a while. I mean, I did have that one there on Saturday, but today it is Monday morning, or should I say it's super late Sunday night as of right now. And as you can see, we're still sitting there right there at Sunday 11:51 p.m. In some cases after a pretty good nap like this time, but sometimes just stay up. But one case or another, this is usually when I start working on Monday mornings. I actually get up a little bit before midnight, so I get everything situated and then try to hit the ground running at around midnight. In this case, I think I'll probably get started around 12, probably 12:10, 12:20. I need to do some minor cleanup on my desk here. That's one of the biggest things about staying efficient in a super small space, is keeping everything fairly tidy. And right now, my desk is a bit of a mess. So let's get that done, get a little bit of minor coffee done, and then I want to show you the items I listed here on Saturday. Okay, so there you go. Desk is quite a bit more clean than I thought. I actually just did more like a 10-minute clean than the 5-minute clean I had planned, but you gotta get rid of all the old to make way for the new. There's nothing worse than inefficient office to start the week if you're actually trying to get a bunch done. As you can see, a lot more cubes behind me there now because I pulled a bunch off the work area. I think it's time for a quick coffee, and then I'll show you through the items I listed here on Saturday. So nothing super fancy this morning, just normal black coffee with ice. It's just in general how I've been having it here recently. Nothing super fancy with all the caramel and all that. Don't really need all that. Anyway, let me walk you through the items that we listed here on Saturday. As you can see, first up here we have a Walls for Rolly kind of filter set for $50. A Rolly filter for $30. Another type of filter for $33. Another filter for $23. Adapter ring for $23. A rewind, a auxiliary focusing knob for $100, a counter knob for $44, a lens hood for $120, lens hood for $220, lens hood for $200, another lens hood for $70, a panorama adapter for $80, and this is actually a really interesting piece. As you can see, I listed as near mint right here. If I can find my mouse on the screen, near mint, Rolleiflex Rolly Mutar, kind of teleconverter lens and case. Quite a rare one here. You see a lot of them listed in the 800 range. This one I decided to try and put where it's going to sell at around $540. So quite a find there. Also at around 4 items I actually added to listings that I already had existing for a total of 16 items and around $1,800 of total listings on Saturday. So not super crazy, but really good stuff. And this Rolly stuff, oh man, it is super gold. We've been listing it through here for the last probably 2 weeks. And it's just really good stuff. Today, for the first shift here, I also have some really good stuff to list. This is an ICOFlex 1C, so Roman numeral 1C if you want to look that up. That is a really good twin lens reflex Zeiss camera, one of the best of all the different ICOFlex models. This one is near mint in the box with the case, cap, and all that. And then I also have another Rolleiflex, pretty basic one, but we sold one sort of like it for $400. So they are all pretty good. And as you can see, just a bunch more of these really miscellaneous adapters. You'll actually be pretty surprised what some of these little filter stacks here go for. So Rolleinar close-up filters for Rolleiflex, different bay types, and all that. So all this stuff is cleaned and tested from Saturday, so I should be able to knock out this amount of items here fairly quickly, hopefully by around 2 a.m. And then also I have to figure out what to do with all these Rolleiflex boxes. They're pretty tattered and everything from the 50s. And also my knife sharpener back there. I actually picked this up at a garage sale the other day. If you know anything about knife sharpeners, this Worksharp brand, I've been looking for one of those for a while. I found it for $5. Basically brand new in there with extra accessories, extra belts, everything. What a deal on that. Sharpening every kitchen knife we own. A little while ago, which I guess sharpen every knife you own, it makes sense. But a quick little thing about the vlog. This vlog is definitely not going to be quite as edited as my old vlogs. I'm just going to try and go for a very basic style for a while here at least, just to not burden myself with excessive editing or anything there. Eventually, I don't know, I might start doing some more filmic sequences and all that kind of stuff like I used to do. But for right now, it's just going to be a pretty bare bones vlog. But hopefully enjoy that, and let me know in the comments below what more you want to see on the vlog. I'm pretty sure I've just covered the basic stuff that I'm doing, show off some stuff that we're listing and selling, And I don't know, I'll go from there to see what else I should put. I thought about filming a little scooter vlog thing yesterday. I'm still doing that. But I don't know. I'm pretty sure I'm just going to stick to the weekdays for right now for vlogging. Anyway, let me get cranked up here and get some of these listings going this morning. So I just want to show quickly kind of my process for looking up items and kind of how I set up my monitors. As you can see here, I usually have two windows side by side. The right one here is for looking up stuff. Then the left one is for looking at the comparable and also listing the item. As you can see right here, I'm working on that Rolleiflex I showed earlier, and this is a really good resource for finding the serial numbers and figuring out exactly what model you have. This is rolleiclub.com. As you can see, a lot of the different Rolleiflex models have a model number, a f-stop number, which is, in this case would be 2.8A, then model K7A, and some even get more complicated than that. Different finder lenses, taking lenses, and a serial number range and date range that you can use in your listing to help in listing these. In the case of this camera, this one has a serial number of 1,716,197, and also if you take off the front lens cap, there are two different lenses there, so if you can read the information off those, that will help you in determining exactly which camera this is. It's definitely not really a science, and there were some pretty good variations throughout the years. But this resource, combined with looking at all the different things on the camera, can really help make identification a lot easier. And there you go. After browsing for a little while, I found it. The Rolleiflex Automat 6x6 model K4B. As you can see, it has quite a serial number range there, but it has quite a bit of information about the different finder lenses and taking lenses, and this fits under there. And then if you look further, it says, after serial number 1,700,000, the EV coupling can be disengaged with a switch in the aperture wheel. Which, you take a look at this right here, which is the aperture wheel. There's a switch right there that pushes in, so that confirms model identification, at least for me. Also says it has a dual format exposure back, which as you can see, there's a switch right. Let's see if I can set it down here so I can show you. As you can see, there's a small switch right here, which actually flips down when the back is open, and that'll allow you to detach the back to put a different exposure back thing on there. So, all in all, it can be a little bit complicated to identify these cameras, but it's definitely worth it, and it's one thing that I really have to try and do with every one we have. The serial numbers make it quite a bit easier than with some other cameras, but these cameras are definitely complicated both to test and to list, which I guess is why they demand the higher price and why they're more expensive to begin with. I always find the lineage of these cameras, if that's how you put it, kind of interesting. I don't know what you call it exactly, but these were right in the high end, just below like the highest end of photography at the time. It was kind of like the press cameras of the time before. I'm pretty sure it went kind of like the Graflex, the press cameras of the 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s, to the Rolleiflexes of the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, to the Hasselblads of the 70s and forward. And then now, of course, the higher end professional, just normal SLR cameras that most people use today. So this was right there before the Hasselblad stuff, which we deal a lot in. And all in all, I really enjoy working with this Rolleiflex stuff. It's a great experience. We definitely paid up for this stuff, but it's definitely worth it. First of all, we're going to make some pretty good money on it, and secondly, just to get all the different experience in this field. These are listed numbers, obviously, but as you can see, a lot of these different cameras listed, and for quite a varying amount of money, but all pretty good. All in all, it's definitely the way to go if you can get a education on certain things, and also make a bit of profit from it. That's one thing that I try to make a point of doing in this whole camera market. My white balance is way off, so I should change that if I was going to make any more shots. But I'm not. So anyway, going to get this one listed. Probably going to get this one over here listed, which I'm not sure if I'll do any segment on that. And then I'm going to get probably the other 4 items that I have pictured listed, and then I'm going to get the rest of the stuff pictured, which at that point, I'll show you the photo tent. Okay, so just an interesting thing that I'm coming up with this Zeiss Icon camera here, which I'm trying to test right now. I actually didn't test this or the other camera before I took photos. That's one thing I do pretty often. But one thing in general with these twin lens reflex cameras, they have very, very complicated winding / cocking mechanisms for the shutter, which in this case is controlled by this knob right here. There's also a exposure counter, which is coupled to that, and in the case of the Rolleiflex over there, it also has a self-timer and some other things there. One thing you encounter a lot with these older cameras that have those really complicated mechanisms is either they don't work at all, or they're very complicated to actuate and test. In most cases, you're meant to load film into these cameras before you attempted to actually test them, which obviously we don't do, so sometimes you have to try and bypass the mechanism. This one, I'm working on trying to figure out how to do that right now. it actually seems pretty standard as far as everything goes there. But from what I can tell online, it's supposed to have a film tension system to make sure there's actually film loaded before you can do the proper winding and cocking of the shutter. As you can see right there, the film counter is currently on 8, and if I rotate the knob here, it's just going to keep going and keep going and keep going. Well, it's actually supposed to stop at each exposure. Doesn't necessarily mean it's broken, it just usually means there's a trick to try and get this tested without film in the actual camera. So I'm going to keep working on this one, but that's definitely something you encounter with these cameras. They were very complicated mechanically and very, very hard to test after the fact, in some cases without film in the camera. On my screen here I have a bunch of different technical stuff going and trying to figure out exactly how to use this. This is the little bit earlier model with the actual cocking lever on the shutter, which as you can see is in the down position, which is how I put it. The shutter button does not function at all as of right now, which is because it has that film override setting, which I'm going to have to figure out how to override the film override, or whatever you call that exactly. In this case, as I said, with kind of complicated mechanisms, after looking through the film compartment and trying to figure out if any of the pieces in there were actually connected, I figured it out. This film counter knob right here needs to be pushed and twisted all the way around in one continuous motion to bring the film counter back to 1, which as you can see it's on 4 right now because I have been testing this camera a little bit. The knob is locked, meaning the shutter is ready to fire, which if we cock the shutter right there, it will do so. And then if you advance the film past that, as you can see, the film advance is working, and now it's stuck, ready for another advance. As I showed there though, as you can see, it's a 2-step. You have to cock the shutter and then fire with that switch. And also, like I was saying, with the complicated mechanisms, if you put it to V mode there, wind it all the way up, cock the shutter, that actually has a linked self-timer along with the winding mechanism there. So now the self-timer will go without having to cock a separate lever for the self-timer itself. So anyway, now I can go through testing and see how well this camera works. Say the testing aspect is one of the things we bring to the table on these types of cameras. Obviously, unless you know that trick and can kind of deduce the trick from looking up different things, you're not going to be able to list that as tested and working. And that's one thing that I really try to do. Once you know it, and it's a good thing to know. In this case, I guess I knew probably, 5 or 6 different things I've encountered in the past that were possibilities on how to trick the system. And in this case, I was able to figure it out fairly quickly. Didn't take me all day. Definitely demonstrates well the case where you have to test every single part on the camera. First off, the optical condition of this camera, I might try to clean it a little bit. It does minor fungus inside the lens, which cannot be seen while the shutter's closed. It's actually behind there. Let me see if I can open this up here real quick. We're on B mode, which should hold the shutter open. See if I have it all set up here. Nope, still gotta wind it. And there you go. As you can see, once you open it up, they can examine all the different elements. Usually use a flashlight, which is actually right over here. I use the Olight Mini, which if you shine that in there, you can get a lot better idea of scratches and overall optical condition. Also, you can test the aperture with this little knob thing right over here. See if I push that up, that'll change the aperture number over there, and also adjust the aperture inside the actual lens. And then of course you can change the shutter speed with the dial down here. So let's close that up, and let's go through the different shutter speeds as I tested them. As you can see there, we're on 1 second here, which I try and test every single speed on each camera. Because as you can see, 1 second there, the timer, it actually has 2 different timers. There's a self-timer, and then it has the actual shutter timer. If I push this a little bit, it'll close down, but obviously it wasn't going to do that on its own, so the timer is either weak or broken in this case. I'll go past 2 there because I already tested that. It also doesn't work, but if you go all the way to 5, which is also a timed speed, usually anything under, maybe 1/15 of a second does have some timer use in it. Let's wind that again, cock the shutter. And it actually worked a little bit better for me before, but 1/5 of a second there does not work 100% either. Go to 1/10 of a second, wind that up, cock the shutter. That one works a lot better. That one is nearly accurate. I usually just go by ear. I don't actually have like a professional shutter tester or anything. It's not really necessary. For cameras like this, if somebody's going to use this for professional use, they definitely are going to get clean, lubricated, adjusted by a professional, which at that point they'll adjust the shutter and everything else. Just as long as the shutter speeds are reasonably accurate to the numbers shown there, that should be pretty good. Okay, so here's one interesting thing. Let's see if I can get to replicate. As you can see, it's set pretty solidly there to 1/100th of a second. And this here is why you test every single speed. Let me just do the same cocking thing here. We have an issue there. The shutter actually hangs open. I'm not sure exactly why this would be, if it's an issue in the button or if it's an issue in the internal gearing on the shutter, but for some reason, let's try 1/50th. That works. And let's go all the way up to the fastest speed of 1/300th of a second. And if I do that, that one works. So I'm not exactly sure the cause of this, but that definitely needs to be outlined in the description because somebody's going to need to open that up and try and fix it if they want to use 1/100th of a second. I've shot about probably 20 shots on each of 50th and 300th, and I can't get to replicate the problem on that at all, so it is just that 1/100th of a second that doesn't work correctly. But obviously, if you're going to sell this camera for, let's say, $500, somebody buys this, somebody gets it, they're out shooting, and then they have this issue come up, that's going to be either a negative feedback, a neutral feedback, or obviously a partial refund / return situation, which is really not that great, especially if you're going international with this thing, as a lot of these tend to sell. So it really shows the importance of testing every speed on these cameras. You can't really cut corners, especially on something this expensive, but even on the lower end ones, I try and go through and do about a 20-minute testing procedure. There's that light there, how you can see there, and if you go from the back, you can actually see a lot better too. Especially in this office with very low light. I mean, I have two little incandescent bulbs up there. You definitely need the flashlight to try and get a good gauge on the optical qualities of this lens, meaning like scratches, haze, fungus, anything that's going to need to be mentioned in the listing. Okay, so it took me about 20 minutes on this one. Probably actually around 35 with the trying to figure out how to get it working in the first place, but about 20 minutes of testing after that to make sure it's all working well. And how well it's working, I guess I should say. Also, there's a meter on there, so you flip this up, you can open up the hood. We don't usually test these for accuracy, but we will see if they're fairly accurate. As you can see through there, there's a needle in the finder, and that goes up and down, depending on how close you have it to a light source. So it definitely responds to light, and then the second thing you can do is just do a relative test on how well the exposure works. You check your shutter speed, aperture, and then you can compare it to a normal camera, which in this case I'd use like a 5D, just to see how that light meter reads out versus this one. And you can determine that it's fairly accurate just from that. I mean, it's all, I wouldn't say, I mean, it's pretty advanced stuff, but I wouldn't say it's super hard to test, but it's definitely not something we're going to guarantee for 100% accuracy, but we will say that it's tested, responds to light, seems to work fairly well. So, I guess that's about it for testing the IcoFlex. I decided to go a little bit more in depth on that. I'm sure some people are interested in what it takes to test a camera like this. Not necessarily that you're going to be able to go out and test it, just from what I've said here. But let's get this one up and listed. And since I mentioned it before, let me just go through this for sake of completeness. I will be removing this front element, which in a lot of them, it's a lot harder to get to. In this camera, though, it's very simple. Could actually just unscrew that from the barrel. I'll clean both the front and back of that lens. And then here is the issue that we want to address. Let's see if I have any shots left in here so I can actually show you. Nope, unfortunately I'm going to have to reset the shutter thing there and come back to this here in a minute. And there you go, reset the film counter, so now it should function again. It only has 12 exposures, so you have 12 attempts before you have to redo this. But let's just go into 1 second setting since that seems to stick open. And let's see, gotta cock the shutter first. As you can see, now it's open, and now we can get to that first rear element there. You can actually see the outside of this element inside the actual body of the camera, but if you can see right there, lens must have got some condensation or something similar at some point. If it'll focus there, there is some pretty heavy fungus in there, which in most cases will actually wipe off if this camera has been frozen between the time getting this fungus and now. If not, you can usually put it in the freezer, and that will kill the fungus enough to allow you to wipe it off there. But in this case, I will attempt a bit of a repair, or at least a cleaning procedure on this one, just because it is easy enough to get to. In a lot of cases where it's just not really possible to attempt that cleaning. But in this case, it's very easy to get into that lens, and something that I will do. I don't repair cameras, per se, but I do try and clean them to the best of my ability, if it's not too difficult to do. Okay, let's see if I can get this to focus here. Let's turn on the light, and I'll just show you something here real quick on this lens. Show well you can see it there, but as you can see, there definitely is some hazing inside that lens right there. And this is one of those cases where I'm definitely not going to be cleaning that. As you can see, this actually has like a spanner, has spanner wrench spots on either side of the lens there, so it's definitely a more technical cleaning than a lot of them. It's not just a screw off. But minor haze, just something I'll mention in the description, and it's usually not a big deal to the resale value of the camera, if it's a used camera at least. And here you go on the main and more major fungus issue. The inside of the lens actually cleaned out very well, which you can't see very well because the back side of the lens was a little bit more fixed on there, but I reduced it from major fungus, which I guess I didn't show you the back before, to just minor fungus. When you put this flashlight behind there, it super dramatizes exactly what's there, so it does look a lot worse than it is. There's now just minor fungus in that camera, and that's about as much cleaning as you can realistically do in one of these. As you can see, when I turn the light off, you really can't see it at all. It very much exaggerates any sort of scratches, fungus, anything there. If we shine on the top lens here, as you can see, there's just a lot of dust and stuff showing up on there, even though that lens looks pretty much clean to the naked eye. Okay, so this one's definitely going to be a long vlog. It's basically because I'm kind of getting back into the swing of things. 2 cameras listed there. See here if I can bring them up. There you go, pricing these to move fairly quickly, but the Rolleiflex there at $500. And the Zeiss Ikon IcoFlex boxed with some minor issues at $450. Pretty sure it's fine, but disclosing how much we paid for all this stuff. This was a really crazy, like Rolleiflex and other twin lens reflex camera collector, so we had a lot of different accessories, one of every camera. We got the back end of that. We got a few of his cameras that he had left after selling off his collection for around a year, so we got a whole bunch of different stuff. But definitely not the full collection. I mean, the full collection was like, I don't remember exactly, a few hundred cameras, so a serious deal. But anyway, we paid right at $6,000 for a whole bunch of different cameras. I think there were about 20 cameras there, if not a couple more. And then a bunch of totes of accessories, which the accessories are going to be really good. I think what we figured with that is we make our money back plus on the cameras, and then everything else after that would be profit, which the accessories, as you can see or possibly know, are very good for these cameras as well. So far, all turning out pretty well, and estimated, I think we're going to come out at least $20,000 sales after all expenses and everything else on all this stuff, possibly quite a bit more on that. It's kind of hard to estimate just looking at exactly what we have, since, like I said, this is kind of a learning thing and whatever. I mean, that's kind of to do it. You buy expensive stuff, you learn about it, and then in the future, you know more about it for everything else. So anyway, like I said, it's going to be a long vlog, but let me turn on my photo tent here real quick. This is quite a bit different setup than I had last time, which used to be like a light stand and a flash and all that. I mean, it was a really complicated setup. This is actually something I looked up and then bought on BH Photo Video. It is an LED photo tent in a very compact form factor. Has a good little LED bar at the top there. It allows me to do my deep depth of field at around f9, which, if you know anything about photography, I guess that's like the blurred out background amount on photos, which for product photos you want a little bit less than that, but I have kind of a happy medium at f9 and 1/160th of a second for all my photos in here, and this tent does that very well. It's definitely not like 100% solution. It is a little bit space constrictive, just trying to put stuff in there, but all in all, it really gives good photos and it works pretty well. Especially in the space that I have here, this thing works very well for what it is. So let's see, I have all those to picture, so I guess I'm going to get that done. Let me just show you some pictures that I shot last time for all those other items. I guess I could probably just show you the new stuff, but I think these photos turn out pretty well. As you can see, there's that Rolleiflex I just listed up there, and then if we keep going here, we have the IcoFlex, also looking pretty good there, and then we have all these other little accessories and things like that. As you can see, the photo tent does a generally pretty good job on all these. Okay, well, let's get this stuff up and going. It is 2 a.m., so it definitely took me quite a bit of time to get those tested, a little bit more than I expected, tested and cleaned and all that, and now I have this next lot. Actually, there's nothing over there. Actually, I have this next lot / batch to get pictured and finish up listing for the morning. Okay, and here's my pre-sort of all the different items I'm going to be picturing to list here. As you can see, I take the filters out of the cases and I put the cases on top of them there, so they're all ready and prepped for photos. I'm pretty sure on Saturday there I cleaned all of these, at least did a very preliminary clean, and before I take photos I'll double check that, make sure that they're clean enough to be shot on camera. And then they should be good to go. You can see a couple loose filters here and just a big variety of some really good and some other types of things here. We have an aftermarket plastic lens shade and filter I'm going to sell as a set here. Also like a Canon lens and a Pentax motor drive. So just a big assortment of miscellaneous things. Let's get it pictured. Okay, there you go. All the photos are imported. If I click into one of these here, I guess I can show you briefly what I do with most of these. First off, I know some of these get a little bit of a green tint to them. This one's not a good example of that. But anyway, I actually have this whole preset menu over here, which comes with Lightroom and makes editing very, very easy for bulk batches of photos. In this case, I have Untitled Preset 61. I should probably try and update that name, but if I click on that, I found in most cases, that's all the editing you need to do. Already went through and kind of mapped out exactly what this does. But one thing that it does do, actually entirely remove the green and aqua channels, which will eliminate any sort of green cast from the images, which is the major issue I've seen on blacks and other things in your photos. But one thing you do have to do is pre-sort every one of the photos to make sure there's no green in any of the photos. That will make black and white, which would not be a great thing if there is green in the photo, and that's important. But after I do that, after I go through apply the preset or not apply it and then update some other ones there, I'll go through and crop all of these, and then I'll be back in a minute after I do that. Yeah, I do leave a little bit of border on the outside on most of my photos, just because my lens doesn't focus close enough to get the whole thing in frame, unless I switch out extension tubes, and in this case, it's not that big of a deal because I have 16 megapixels to work with, so when I zoom in, it goes to about 10, and it's still plenty sharp after that. So you might be able to see the green tint on this one a little bit. It's a very minor thing, but I think it looks a lot cleaner when I remove that. As you can see in the timeline thing, if that's what you want to call it, at the bottom here, there's only one photo that has a green in it, so I marked it, and then I deselected that one. See if I can go one-handed here. If I right-click on all these photos I have selected, go to Develop Settings, here's our presets, and just click Untitled Preset 61. Now, all the photos should update with fairly good and universal editing settings that I have set up from before. And now I'm just going to go through and crop all of them. Okay, and there you go, all cropped, edited, everything else here. One thing I wanted to mention quickly, even with the 1/160th of a second, you will get the occasional blurry frame at the speed that I'm doing stuff there, so I have to make the decision whether or not to delete that, retake it, whatever. In this case, I'm pretty sure I'll just delete it from the average. I'll just delete it from all the photos here. I mean, it's not super essential, so let's delete that one. And now we just have 3 photos of this filter, not a big deal. But there are a couple like that. Let's see if we can find another one, like right there. I'm pretty sure I'll keep this one in, but I'll put it at the end of the photos. It's just kind of par for the course with all these here. They are going to have a couple blurry frames, but all in all, I think for the most part, these photos here are pretty good. They turned out pretty good. And there you go, 75 photos taken, imported, edited, all that in right around 35 minutes. One thing that I think is kind of interesting that's changed a lot in how we do things over the last probably year, so I mean right at the end of the vlog, I think I started doing this, is actually getting all these little bags and putting accessories in there. I mean, I think it's pretty much evolved over the last 2 years. We used to get all this, used to have all these items on the shelf that got all dusty, the stickers fell off, they were difficult to find, and I mean these bags cost a little bit, but in these types of things, we just put this inside a bag, dust protected, it should be easy to find and just ready to ship out. We also started doing that with every lens we listed. In the early days, we just stick a sticker right on the actual barrel of the lens, but that ended up with really dusty lenses on the shelf and just an all-in-all not very good experience. Now we bag almost every single lens and even camera body that we list, which, I mean, like I said, it adds, I don't know, 20 cents per item. But I think it's really worth it just to keep that really nice. And actually a lot less than 20 cents on these bulk bags. I'm talking about Ziplocs and stuff for some of the lenses and camera bodies. And I guess I'll very briefly discuss testing, cleaning, and listing filters. As you can see here, this is a Rollei filter. It has an R2 on there, meaning it's for Bay 2 fit. Rollei Soft is a soft focus filter. I'm not sure if you can see that. Nice sort of screen I can show you. There's kind of a radial thing on the inside of the filter, which makes it a soft focus filter. So basically for filters, one big annoyance, at least for me, is that they are just as hard to clean as a lens, especially the older uncoated ones. These ones aren't quite as bad, but literally, with a very marginal increase, I can list just as many of these types of lenses as I can of these filters just because of the cleaning time on them. So, I mean, it's a minor annoyance, but if they're worth enough money, they're definitely worth listing. I won't list a filter that's worth under $15 or $16. In the case of these Rollei filters, we're definitely quite a bit above that. But as you can see, this is about what my standard description is. This Rollei, Rolleiflex, whatever. That's just basically my title copied and pasted from right up here, which is supposed to be both descriptive and also pretty keyword heavy. I don't know, so people can find it. But as you can see, it's in very good cosmetic condition. The filter has a few minor scratches. Thanks for looking. If there's anything more to mention about the filter, like the glasses loose, the case, condition, which I'll probably add to this one, then I'll put it there. But all in all, very, very basic listings. Aside from the cleaning hassle of filters, they are pretty easy to list. Okay, just past 4 AM there. We're at 16 listings. Really kind of just machine listing through all this stuff here. A little bit more efficient than usual. Usually I would have taken a break by now, but just wanted to get all this stuff done. As you can see here, Pentax Winder ME2. There are a couple tricks to testing these. This one, in this case, actually is a lit enough one and just this particular model where it will function, as you can see there, without actually having to short out the contacts. But on most motor drives, when you're testing them, if they don't seem to work, try to use a quarter or something similar that's like a metal piece across the contacts, and then press the button, see if you get a response from that. And obviously, in this case at least, it's not the case on all of them, you do need to have it turned on from off there. As you can see, it's in single. This one's pretty fancy, comes with a bunch of different features, should be pretty decent, but this one actually makes testing pretty easy. A lot of those are not. A lot of those you will need to short those contacts for it to work correctly, to make it kind of trick it and make it think it's attached to a camera. Okay, catching up with the old picker crowd there. Haven't actually been watching the videos recently, so I'm just watching some of that kind of stuff. There are 24 items total done this morning. Wow, that's actually going really, really well. I'm not going to go through each one of these individually, but let me just do a quick scroll through here once my camera focuses. Real decent accessories and miscellaneous things, some rare stuff. A little bit better filters there, and obviously those two cameras listed at the beginning of the morning. Gonna go grab myself some breakfast, possibly take like a 20-minute nap, and I guess we'll see what goes on for the rest of the morning, but that's pretty much it for the morning listing session. Gonna go pick another 20-some items out of that tote, so I guess I'll go do that here after I get some breakfast. One thing I still enjoy doing a lot is the Rubik's Cube here. As you can see, I have one. This is probably gonna be really sucky, but let's just film the first solve of the day. Usually I just kind of solve, I don't do 100 solves in a row or something. Right now I average right under 20 seconds, I think right at 18. So if this thing's anything under 20, I guess I'll be fair. If not, it's just an average morning solve, I guess. Yep, it's going to be bad already, I can tell. Okay. It takes me a little while to warm up. Oop. Oh, too bad. 20.68. Not super great. Okay, back to the big case of Rolly stuff. Just past 5 PM. Let me see what else I can grab out of here. I guess I'll put away the camera and show the tote once it's full. Okay, it's kind of a small looking tote there, but I think there's about 35 items in there, if not a few more. Just a lot of miscellaneous filters, some really interesting little accessories, and the like. Look down in here, there is not really a ton left here. Next batch here is definitely going to be kind of the slog and just going through the last stuff in the tote, kind of figuring out what's going on and figuring out how to lot up a couple things here. Like we have all these cases. Unfortunately, if this stuff was all full, I mean, this would be thousands of dollars. But all these cases here are empty, and we have a bunch more upstairs that are also. And we also have some camera cases, which we'll probably list those separately. The little cases will probably have to go in a lot with some other stuff there. And then like all these little super slides and things, all these frames, masks, miscellaneous, all that kind of stuff. Usually go in lots because they're not complete or just that. And some pretty nice little Bakelite cases, but nothing in those. So just kind of a whole bunch of cleanup stuff after we're done with this tote. So let's get that up there. And I'm pretty sure I'll decide exactly what to do here, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna take like a 20-minute nap or something, 25, 30-minute nap. Just a quick little nap thing as a recovery, restart. And I heard that I guess we're going to go running with the boys and dad and everybody here at about like 8 AM, a little bit earlier than usual. So I guess pretty normal Monday. I'm not going to be like hitting the ground and getting all this stuff listed. I'm feeling pretty exhausted after 4 hours of work or whatever. So anyway, I guess till I update the vlog next. Okay, decided to lay out all these things here. As you can see, by my count, 54 items, that latest tote. Really odd here. We rarely get Bay 3 type filters, and here we have 3 of them, and they're all orange. Wonder Otherwise, somebody had that many of them. Anyway, those are worth about 50 plus each, so that's pretty decent. And this Rolly Bowl for Bay 3, if it's in nice shape, which I haven't cleaned it up yet, so we'll see, should be around 100 bucks. So, all in all, just a bunch of good stuff here, miscellaneous as always, and certain filters are a lot better than others. 54 items though, it's quite a few. Whoa, back in the saddle, but feeling more refreshed than intended to. I don't know what it is with me and trying to take short naps, but half the time they don't really work out. I actually set my alarm for an hour nap, so it was going to be a little bit longer than I at first thought. Ended up being around 2.5 hours, so I guess that's good in some ways, and also, I mean, it's just good. I didn't need to do much more from, I don't know, 5:30 to 7:30 or 8 or whatever time it is now. Let's see, it's 8:19. So anyway, I guess I should be refreshed for the rest of the day, in theory. So anyway, looking at this pile again, this is actually looking really, really good. Mainly because it's the same stuff that I've been listing all the way along. If I could somehow pull out 79 items today, that would be really fantastic. So let's try and get these, first of all, let's try and get the preliminary cleaning done on these, and then let's see if I can get them photoed and pictured before we go for the run here in the morning. Apparently that's happening like at 9:30, 9:15, I don't know. Dealer told me, I forgot. You don't really think about when you get into the camera business how much you're actually gonna have to clean stuff. Oh man. Even on some stuff like this that should be reasonably clean, stored okay, and all that, there's a lot more cleaning that goes into this thing than you'd think. Just that's one cloth there, just a couple wipes off. This thing here is very, very dusty. So that's one service that we definitely provide people, is trying to clean the filters to about the quality that we can. I guess I could talk briefly about what I do when I'm cleaning filters, or usually what I call the initial clean. The initial clean is just kind of getting the first layer of dust off them. Some cases that's all I need, but in a lot of cases you basically get the first layer of dust off them, and that pretty much wrecks like a couple cloths, and then you go in with one cloth and try to finish them all up at once. Works pretty well, because if you try to just clean, you're gonna get a lot more dirt on each cloth than if you just go through with a couple, try to knock that initial layer of dirt off, and then just go for the precision clean and try to knock all the rest of the fingerprints and all that kind of stuff off of them. As I said before, definitely a little bit dramatized through the flashlight there, but as you can see, that's how a lot of different filters get to us. And then of course, once you're done with them, you want that glass to actually be clear so you can take good images through it. So definitely some significant and careful cleaning required on one like that. After the initial clean, it's not necessarily perfect, but that's about how a filter should look after that. And there you go, that's that same filter. As you can see, after the initial clean, it's looking quite a bit better. It has some minor coating marring and some fused dust. So I'll try and take care of that later, but it's funny, I was actually having trouble getting my camera to focus on the edges of that filter just because it was so clear, it just kept seeing right through it. So that's about what you want after the initial clean. Let's just give one more example here. As you can see, it's a Rolly orange filter. The funny thing is, all these filters are actually stored in cases. It really doesn't seem to make a difference whether or not it's stored in a case, just because the cases here are made out of leather and definitely actually contribute rather than kind of help the cleanliness of filters. So all filters in general, even ones new old stock or brand new, if they're 30 or 40 years old, are going to have plenty of dust, dirt, and grime on them. Again, actually having trouble focusing on the filter after I clean it there. Still has a little bit around the edges. We'll have to touch that up a little bit, but as you can see, that's looking a lot cleaner than it was before. And of course, there's only so much you can do for filters. This one, in this case, has some pretty bad coating marring, if you can see that, and just coating scratches. I mean, you can only take off the dirt. You can't fix the coating scratches or marring or anything like that. But this one's a little bit cleaner than it was before. Okay, so this is new old stock from the 60s, so it's even a little bit different than some others there, but as you can see, that filter is still filthy, even being brand new in the box. There's the box and case for that, and basically it's just due to all the environmental conditions this thing's been through throughout its life, probably this case that's in, and probably that foam that's in between the filters. Okay, so there you go, initial clean done all these, I guess we're going for a run. Hey, well this is a whole different position here. I guess I'm driving now. Going to swim lessons with the kids and then going for a run too. Hey, welcome to Pimp My Ride. Here we go. Here it is, the Chevy Express 3500. It's my new ride. Guess I haven't really vlogged in a while, so I can't really tell you, but I guess I got my learner's permit and I have a plan to buy the van, so I guess that'll be pretty cool. But anyway, done with the run. 4.5 miles or something, 35 minutes. Not super great, but just a easy day in the books. Just trying to sort of stay in shape, I guess. But anyway, I guess back to the shop. About 122,000 miles, ridden lightly. Got to get a GoPro installed in here for some driving shots.
Yeah.
Okay, back in the office. I guess I can call this my office. This is my office. But anyway, this is usually what I would call a slug hour after the running. But let's try and hit the ground running. Let's try and get all this stuff pictured and hopefully edited before lunch. I think it's like, let me check the time here quickly, 10:35 a.m., so about 3 hours. So one thing I've learned over the time is that if you want to try and keep your filters clean and free of dust, you gotta put something over them. Otherwise, by the time you get to Listium, you have to re-clean half of them. But anyway, as you can see right here, all of the photos are done and edited. A couple more than I wanted to, turned out blurry out of those. But all in all, pretty decent, so I'll have to retake a couple, but other than that, all pretty good, and should be able to get these 54 items listed today, which that should be really awesome. So anyway, got a second batch of coffee brewing up for the afternoon, and let's get on to the listing. Maybe try to get like half of these knocked out before supper. Okay, so I had some coffee here, been pretty sparse with the vlogging this afternoon, drove the Jeep to UPS, ate some supper, actually just finished supper, and just finished my 50th listing for today. As you can see there, $618.50, just a little Rolly filter set for $70, and we still have quite a few more little items to finish up, so let's power through those and see what's up after that. That's the pile of all the listed stuff here after the original 24 this morning. Wow, it's actually more than I even expected. I'm on stickers 75, and I believe I have one more item left to list. Actually 2 out of this batch. Should be this right here, not even sure exactly what that is. Man, definitely getting worn out a little bit today, but you know what happens when you hit 75 plus? I mean, I haven't hit 100 more than 3 times, I think, in my entire listing career. Maybe another time, besides that. So I think today, let's start off the challenge right, or at least second day of the challenge correctly, by going for 100 listings today. I'm gonna have to go downstairs and look exactly what I have. It is only 8:24 p.m. so I definitely still have some time tonight before midnight to get that going. Okay, so those are for sure my last 2 items here. This is a really oddball piece. I assume it actually attaches to one of these things, a Rolleifix, which is a tripod adapter. It probably attaches to around that tripod socket there. It allows you to mount an oddball flash unit from the 50s to it. So very, very oddball accessory. Can't find a single one of them, so I don't know. It's a very well-known brand from the later years. Probably listed up at like 50 bucks, new old stock. Colt close-up lens set, pretty poor shape. Probably list this one up at like 15 or 20. After that, I just talked with Dealer, and we actually had 3 big boxes of this Rolleiflex stuff, and so far we've listed 1 full one, and most of the second one, which would be that other thing down there that I've been pulling stuff out of. After that's done, we have 1 more box, which I think I'm going to dip into early. The rest of the stuff that's in the box down there is actually pretty low end. It's all going to be lighted up, etc. So I'll try and tackle that tomorrow. Instead, I'm going to go straight into the fresh stuff, try to pick out a good 20 items or so, and then finish up the listings for today. Hit 100 items. That'll feel really good. And then I should still have some time to recover before tomorrow. Should get to bed by about 11 p.m. and then get up, I don't know, around 8-ish or 9-ish. So I actually get a lot more sleep than usual just because of my weird, I don't know, I actually listed earlier today instead of actually staying up all night. So that works. Anyway, rambling, let's get those 2 listed and let's go find the final Rolleiflex tote. Okay, got the last couple listed there and I forget exactly where I left it off. So I guess it's just time to get the new tote in here. Dealer has run off to go grab it. So we're gonna see what we have in there. Whoa, man, we're back here in the junk heap here with Dealer, right? The stuff's all kind of low end.
Yeah, it's a mixture.
Oh man, I guess we have a problem getting to the Rolly tote. It's back in there somewhere, but we don't know where, so I guess the search is in progress. Here we go. Found it. Oh, there it is. As you can see with all the R's on top for Rolleiflex. See if I can open this one-handed and get a first impression. I don't remember exactly what's in here, but let's take a look. Looks like a lot of box things. That's interesting. Right on top looks like some Leica stuff, and then there's a bunch of different Rolleiflex stuff down in there. Probably a couple more cameras, so I guess let's just get a tote and see what we can find to list out of there. Well, unfortunately, that's the box out of the lot that is kind of older slash moldier, mustier, whatever smelling stuff, so not the greatest stuff to sort through. But all in all, same old, very, very good stuff. There's going to be some really interesting things to dig into here on Monday, including a sheet film back, another sheet film back, and another sheet film back. Going for around 100 to 150 each, so those are pretty decent. As you can see, we have some really interesting pieces in the ones I'm going to bring up right now, including a Rollei water-resistant case, all metal from the 50s. Very interesting. Very interested to see what that price is out at. I'll definitely have to look that up when I get up there. And then I pretty much just took the easy road out, grabbed a bunch of stuff that I kind of knew what it was. It's going to be fairly easy to list. I mean, I want to hit 100 items today, but I don't feel like staying up all night and trying to identify a bunch of stuff. Don't feel like working a little bit too hard, but I will try and get another 20 listed out of this tote here. And I guess that's about enough rambling on. Let's get the stuff upstairs and get it going for tonight. Okay, back in the office and just unpacking all this stuff here. Definitely some really interesting things. I'll show you this thing here in a minute. Big surprise right there. And then this lens hood right here. My only thought is somebody must have needed a hammer and just noticed this Rolleiflex was laying around, realized that the lens hood is actually really tough, and decided to just casually nail in a few nails. Lens hood here has a minor dent in it, minor fender bender, and man, this is really thick metal. I literally cannot bend that at all by hand, so that really did take a pretty serious drop. I don't think the hammer theory is too far off. And then, of course, the Rolleiflex Tropical case, as apparently is actually a pretty good piece. There's a couple listed here, all the way up to around $400 for one in nice shape with the manual. In this condition, fairly well used, and the strap is kind of deteriorated on it. I'm pretty sure I'll list this up at around $150. Let's see if I can get this open here quickly. As you can see, it's actually a really interesting case. The camera bolts on there, and then it just kind of sits in there. It's called the Tropical case because, as you can see, it has an O-ring in there, which actually seals this from dust and water. Very, very cool. And here's the big surprise out of this whole lot of things here. As you can see, we have a boxed lens hood. I'm going to have to confirm, and actually, you know what? I just did. 4x4. This is the original box for this lens hood. That makes it even more crazy. Let's just bring this lens hood into frame here. As you can see, it says Rollei F&H on one side, but on the other side it says 4x4, and 4x4 means it's a baby Rolleiflex, which is a smaller format version of the Rolleiflex. It's not super uncommon. They made a lot of these in gray, but this one, as you can see, is in black enamel, which doesn't seem super significant until you start looking at the pricing. If we look at listed here, which isn't always the best indicator, we have a gray one for $39, a gray one for $100, so pretty good money on all those. Go for this thing, the Rollei-Luxe, that's kind of a weird thing. But then you find the first of the black metal ones there. As you can see, one in poor condition from Hong Kong for $245. And then here's one in nice shape, but also boxed for $400 from Hong Kong. So that's pretty crazy. It's one of those cases where they made a lot of the baby gray ones, and the collectors are really looking for the black metal lens hoods for the baby Rolleiflex. I did look for sold listings, and I couldn't find any sold, mainly just because of the scarcity. I will do a little bit more thorough search on Google to try and find a sold example, but if I had to guess, we're definitely going to be selling that for over $200, especially with the original box and case and everything. That's quite a find. I was expecting that to be around the $80 to $110 range, which is still pretty good money, but if we can get $250, $300 out of that, that's quite a find for sure. Especially for something that small. I mean, just look at that thing. It's just a little lens hood. Should probably be handling this thing with gloves. But enough talk about all the different items here. I got to get this stuff done before I decide to go to bed. And let's try and hit 100 items total for today. Let's get it pictured, and let's get it up and listed. Okay, and here are all the different things all laid out, all ready for picturing. Should be pretty easy to hit the number. I'm just going to be listing a bunch of these different caps, and probably some miscellaneous lens hoods, knobs, and things. After that, if I still feel motivated, I'm going to try and list this case, and I guess that's going to be about it. So let's get those pictured. Okay, up a little bit later than anticipated there. Kind of caught a second wind and really had to get this stuff going after I shot all those photos, which actually I didn't show off the photos, so man, I'm really losing it. But anyway, there it is. Item number 100. We've made it. I actually haven't submitted the listing yet, but it's just a Minolta Autocord lens hood for $69.99. Anyway, gonna finish that one up, and I think I have probably another 6 items or so I'm gonna finish those up quickly. And then after that, I can end the vlog and go to bed. I'm pretty sure I'll edit this quickly in the morning and upload that. Dealer already got his up for the day, but I think next day is probably the best bet for this because it'll probably keep me up for another hour or something if I try to edit tonight. So, I don't even know how this whole thing's gonna turn out. It's very, very crazy, actually, just kind of, I don't know, vlogging, and today felt like a really, really long day. Usually Mondays feel like about 2 days for me, which I guess that makes sense. I get up at 12, I'm working during the day, or I work in the mornings, and I work during the day, and then work at night. Whatever, it's a pretty long day, 24 hours, pretty much straight. I mean, I had a pretty good 3-hour nap in there, but anyway, I guess I'm rambling again. Let's get the rest of that stuff finished, and then I'll end the vlog for today. Okay, and we're finally getting to the end of the night. The final items are listed, the final numbers are in. We are at 107 listings, if you can see it right there. So, wow. What a day. Definitely the 3rd most I've ever listed, I believe, in a single day, which, I mean, it's about a 24-hour period, so I guess that's actually quite a long time. But anyway, let's just quickly scroll down all the items I listed here. You probably can't see all that, but it's just a whole ton of different stuff. We actually sold 3 items from here during the actual day, and there you go, to the bottom. So I added up all these different items, and as you can see, the total comes to $6,371 and 107 items. Wow. Okay. So anyway, I gotta get some sleep. I'll edit this in the morning, get that up. This is about it for the first. I mean, I'm gonna call this the first. I think the last one was technically the first vlog, but this is the first daily vlog of the series. So thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe below if you enjoyed. Make sure to press that bell icon because apparently YouTube has you do that now. Otherwise, you won't get notified until it's like 5 days after the video goes up. I don't know what's up with YouTube these days. But anyway, thanks again for watching. Wheeler out of here. Noah out. Goodbye.